Imagine stepping into a time machine and witnessing the birth of automotive innovation. Cars that defied conventions, pushed boundaries and redefined the future. From turbocharged marvels to electric pioneers, let's take a journey through the most groundbreaking vehicles that were straight out of the future. Strap in, because we're about to explore the coolest cars that changed the game forever. It's 1955, and Mercedes drops a bombshell on the automotive world. The 300 SL roars onto the scene with not one, but two groundbreaking features. Those iconic gull-wing doors, yeah, they weren't just for show, but the real magic was under the hood. The first ever fuel injection system in a production car. In 1990, Mitsubishi unveiled the GTO 3000 GT, a car so packed with futuristic tech, it felt like it came straight out of a sci-fi movie. This beast featured adaptive suspension, four-wheel steering, and active aerodynamics. Systems designed to make the car handle like a dream at any speed. The active aero system adjusted the front air dam and rear spoiler for better stability, while the four-wheel steering made cornering feel effortless. Pair all that with a twin turbocharged V6 engine, and you had a car that was ahead of its time.
A car with 3 headlights and 6 tailpipes, that did it for me when I wanted to find out more. At the time, it had 166 horsepower, which was no slouch for 1948. That's pretty good. The center headlight actually turns with the front wheels. It doesn't stay on all the time. You'll have your regular headlights on. When you turn the wheel either to the left or to the right, as it gets 10 degrees, either direction, that's when it switches on to light your way around the corner. So back here we have the Franklin 335 flat 6 helicopter engine, and it gets hooked up to a 1936-37 Cord transmission, which is an electronic vacuum pre-select. The feature of the first 25 cars is the gas tank in the rear, and so you'd have your gas filler right here behind the rear fender vent. And another feature is the doors open up into the roof, which was the first American car to have that. No rain gutters.
Fuel cell cars, which run on electricity produced from compressed hydrogen, emit zero harmful emissions and could be the future of motoring. They can be just as fast, practical, and can travel as far as a conventional petrol or diesel engine car, but their technology is very different, and importantly, the only thing that comes out of the exhaust is water vapor. Rather than having a petrol or diesel tank like a conventional car, the fuel cell car has a tank that stores compressed hydrogen as a gas. Hydrogen is used as an energy carrier so that the fuel cell car can produce its own electricity on board rather than storing it in batteries. This compressed hydrogen is expanded and then fed into the fuel cell stack. The fuel cell stack is like a tiny electric power station. Inside it, the hydrogen combines with oxygen from the air to generate electricity and water as a byproduct. Water vapor is the fuel cell car's only emission. The electricity created inside the fuel cell stack is used to power the electric motor, which is in turn used to drive the car. Because the electricity is generated from hydrogen and oxygen, no carbon dioxide or other pollutants are emitted from the car. It's the ultimate in clean performance.
Fast forward to 1987. Honda decides to shake things up with the Prelude. What made it special? Four-wheel steering, a first for mass-produced cars. Suddenly, parallel parking became a breeze, and high-speed lane changes felt like you were driving on rails. It was like having a superpower on 4 wheels.
With its fluid curves aggressive 160 horsepower engine, and anti-lock brakes. The new Honda Prelude SI makes driving a more illuminating experience.
What's the Jetfire got that's so new and different? Watch. That's what. New from Olds, only from Olds. Jetfire's got the sensational power and acceleration of the revolutionary turbo rocket engine, a turbocharged fluid-injected V8 that gives you true high compression performance. In this phenomenal engine, turbo rocket fluid, gasoline, and air are blended in the exhaust-driven compressor. Accelerate sharply, and the turbocharger whirls at incredible speed, packing the fuel mix into the engine. Result, compression zooming upward, and that enormous surge of Jetfire power. Jetfire by Oldsmobile.
Allen's breakthrough power system helped create an electric car unlike any that had ever been driven before.
I had one of those early EV1s, and I used it here in the Capitol. I loved the car.
Believe it or not, that sucker goes. That thing will take you down the PCH so fast you could get a ticket.
They were quiet and fast, produced no exhaust, and ran without gasoline.
And we started seeing the momentum building for this and the waiting lists being created for these cars.
10 years later, these futuristic cars were almost entirely gone.
We have heard about these long waiting lists. We contacted each of those folks, and we whittled that list down.
Only recently did they finally admit that there actually was a waiting list.
And we whittled that list down.
We were having a lunch in the executive dining room at the GM Tech Center one day, and just the two of us, and he leans over to me and he says, "Dobbles, you know something? You're my worst enemy." And I said, "Why is that?" And he said, "Well, I'm out there lobbying to show that there's no demand for electric vehicles, and you're out there proving me wrong."
As car companies made the case there was no demand, GM quietly closed its EV1 assembly line and began laying off its sales force.
They started with the ones with the biggest waiting list.
Studying General Motors practices over the years, the executives at the top, their motto seemed to have been going backwards into the future.
They didn't give you an option to buy. They said, "Thank you for leasing the car.
Turn
Bye-bye.
it in now. Turn it in
That's
by
it.
such and such a date, or you're going to be held liable."
GM did do it right. They did create a great, great car. It's well engineered, it's well designed, and it's enjoyable to drive. I've never seen a company be so cannibalistic about its own product before. It's such an odd experience.
Flew over at General Motors, and looking down, we could see right next to the racetrack where the EV1 was first tested, we saw, I don't know, maybe 50 EV1s crushed and put on top of.
Taking a trip in the 1955 Citroen DS21 was like riding on a magic carpet. Its self-leveling suspension was so advanced, it's still used by luxury brands like Rolls-Royce and Maserati today. Pair that with front disc brakes, and you've got a car that was decades ahead of its time. (1966). Lamborghini unleashes the Miura, and the supercar world is never the same. This wasn't just a fast car, it was the first serious mid-engine supercar. That transverse V12 engine. It set the template for supercars for decades to come. The Miura didn't just raise the bar, it launched it into the stratosphere.
Il bel soleil.
Go back to the beginning of the 959. The 959 was really Helmut Bott's way of looking at the future of the 911. That's what it was. And without anything holding him back, he basically developed that car to an extremely forward level. Suspension, all-wheel drive, 6-speed, twin turbo. He did all these things in that car that really was kind of a window into the future of Porsche. But it gave us a chance to see what the future of 911 looked like. And I said the first time I drove it, I said the car is literally at least 20 years ahead of its time. Helmut Bott in the 959 really wanted to prove that there was a future for the 911. And by building a car with all the advancements and all the development that he could think of in that car, he could actually test the theory that the 911 would be here 10 years from then, 20 years from then, 30 years from then, 40 or 50 years from then. So here we are more than 30 years from that point in time, and the 911 is as good a car as it's ever been.